Are there any objections to this paragraph, please? To this? Delegates, can we agree to this amendment? Norway, you have the floor, please. Norway, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to make a modification of the last part of the paragraph, if I can read the modification. So it's after Global Environment Facility. We would like to modify to ensure that country-driven projects contributing to this target are designed and implemented in consultation and partnership with indigenous peoples and local communities. Thank you.
Can we agree to this amendment? I request, yeah. Can we agree to this amendment, please? Yeah. No request for the floor. With Brazil and Norway's amendments, with that, the paragraph 14 approved. Yes, please. We move on to paragraph 15. Starts with word emphasizes. Are there any objections to this paragraph? Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you. We would prefer that this paragraph be bracketed. Thanks.
Yeah. Can we move on with? Yeah, we have bracketed it, and moving on to para 16, please. Paragraph 16 adopts the 4-year outcome-oriented framework of biodiversity programming priorities. Are there any objections to this paragraph? No request for the floor. Nothing. I presume, therefore, you have approved the annex also. Thank you. Oh, no, European Union has come. European Union, you have the floor.
I would just request for clarification, Mr. Chair. We've now approved this para, but we do have some amendments, I believe, in the annex. Does this adopting this para preclude us from making those amendments?
Then we'll proceed to annex, please. Can we adopt the annex as a whole? Now, since European Union has requested for some amendments, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In para 6 of the annex, we had first question on the wording in a balanced manner in the first to last line. What this wording exactly means, and then I will just. We only have a few amendments, so I will explain them all now. In para 8, we would like to delete from in a manner consistent until to avoid double counting.
So we are putting those in brackets, please.
Yes, thank you. And then in para 9E, let me just put my, sorry. In para 9E, we would like to request to put in brackets while noting the obligations until convention. So while noting the obligations contained in Articles 20 and 21 of the conventions, so that language. In para 10, there's a line operated by the facility on an interim basis in accordance with Article 39 of the Convention. After interim basis, we would like to add and ongoing.
Yeah, we place that in
Yes.
brackets.
Yes, and then there's a para B, but I'm the further on in para 10B. We would like to delete sustainable. That's in the third line.
B.
In H, so para 10H. We would, there's that it starts with promote cooperation and complementarity. We would like to add the word synergies here, so it's promote synergies, cooperation and complementarity. Then there is a para that was deleted from the previous version in K, and that para read, promote and implement as appropriate the ecosystem approach and or nature-based solutions as defined in the United Nations Environment Assembly at its 5th session, with a footnote that mentions the relevant UNEA 5 decision. This was included in the pre-session document, and we would like to bring that para back. Then in para 12A, that one we want to bracket. In 12C, we want to add before support further. That was also there initially. And then after improve, we would like to delete direct, so that the first line would read from 12C, explore ways to further support capacity building and to improve access to funding by indigenous peoples and local communities. In para 12D, we want to delete establish simplified application processes and replace that with provide. Then it says provide capacity building, and then we want to delete initiatives and dedicated funding streams and replace that with and support for eligible parties to delete support and replace with enhance. So I will read that para again because this is a reformulation. It would read, in our view, better if we say provide capacity building and support for eligible parties to enhance the full and effective representation and participation of indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth in the implementation of the framework. Those are all of our amendments, Mr. Chair. So in that view, I'm in your hands on the way forward, but perhaps it would be best if we bracket then also the para where we say that we adopt the framework until we have agreement on the annex. Thank you.
I'm a little bit disappointed because so many amendments have been suggested. So I would like to bracket the entire annex and with adopts also being a word bracketed. If the other, this is how I would like to move on, please. There are many parties. Friends, there are a long list of parties in queue. We are going to bracket it and move forward. If I start giving this thing, there is a long list of humongous work before us. So therefore, the entire annex will be bracketed, please. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Point of order. Is Annex 1 bracketed with or without the amendments that have been proposed by the European Union?
Without, please. DRC, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. Given the fact that the European Union has submitted a great many amendments on this annex, and we simply didn't have the time to consider them properly, we would ask you to place the whole of the annex between square brackets. Now, having said all this, in the fourth paragraph,
Okay.
Thank you.
D'accord. Merci, Monsieur.
very well, thank you, sir. In the fourth paragraph, we would like to add, in the second line, interim after financial mechanisms. In fact, before financial mechanisms. And we remind you here that we cannot continue to force a conference of the parties to accept what simply isn't true. We've said it and resaid it. The European Union says that the GEF is an ongoing mechanism, a continuous mechanism, and this is something that we cannot accept. And we're going to limit ourselves to these comments. But everywhere where one refers to the GEF as a financing mechanism for the convention, we insist. We stress and insist that this has to be accompanied with the word interim.
I have already mentioned that the entire annex has been bracketed, so therefore there is no need for further interventions. However, Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a comment on paragraph 10, item C of this annex. Building upon support being provided under the eighth replenishment of the GEF and the GBF fund, there seems to be the mix-up of GEF and the GBF fund. For this reason, we propose the word, the aid replenishment, to be kept in bracket. Now you have opened the floor for these comments for this annex, and many parties, of course, they have comments. So if you may want to have whole annex into one bracket, but it is not that simple. You opened the box already. Thank you.
The annex has been bracketed, I mentioned already, without any additions, please. Argentina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. My comments are cross-cutting nature for this document and others. In a contact group session, we proposed an amendment to the text. When referring to the convention, its protocols, and the global framework, at that time, we would suggest a change, which would be the convention and its protocols.
It's Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework.
So at this point, the Secretariat indicated that probably this would not be the best way to link the convention and the global framework. Therefore, requested that the Secretariat provide a proposal of text which would enable the reader to clearly identify the global framework as a decision of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention. So in this regard, we reiterate our request to the Secretariat to refine the wording here so that we have a very clear link established, and to apply this to all the documents which we are dealing with. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor, please.
Dear Mr. Chair, before I made my amendments, I have asked you if I was allowed to make them, and you opened the floor for me to make the amendment. So I find this a little bit of a strange procedure. That we are totally in agreement that we, given the discussion, should bracket the entire annex, but we would prefer that our amendments would be taken into account and include those brackets in the amendment. This is standard procedure in our view. And I think it's quite normal that at this stage of the discussions that we are not, that we can't, that we still would like to see some changes in the text. So I would like to ask you to keep indeed the entire annex in brackets, but include also our amendments in brackets so that parties can reflect on them before COP. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. There are a long list of other parties who would like to come in, and I cannot, at this juncture, in the, we are in the final stage, and the entire time will be, like yesterday, will be for the discussions and debates only. So therefore, without additions, I had to put it in brackets. Sorry, I cannot entertain your request. Sorry. UK, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Like you, we're keen to make progress. I think I agree with your instinct, which is that we should just square bracket the annex and move on. I wonder if it would give everyone some comfort if we could add a footnote to the annex that suggests that it wasn't discussed in any detail at CRP or LDOC stage, so that parties could be confident that when we get back to COP, there would be an opportunity for a full discussion of it there. Thank you.
Thank you, United Kingdom. I agree to this suggestion made, please. Friends, we are moving on to paragraph 17. Starts with words, request the Global Environment Facility. Are there any objections to this paragraph? Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, just to get back to the last discussion. It wasn't clear for us if the suggested modifications from the EU will be included in brackets in the annex that goes to the COP, or will the annex that goes to the COP will be completely bracketed as we have it now in the CRP with a footnote that the UK suggested. Thank you for clarifying.
Norway, I have clarified 2 times that without addition, the entire annex has been bracketed, please. With the UK suggestion. DRC, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you so much, sir. Given the fact that you have proposed that the annex should be placed between square brackets and that paragraph 16 refers to that annex, I believe we should also place paragraph 16 between square brackets.
Yes. I mentioned already that the bracket starts with adopts. So please, thank you. We are on paragraph 17, please. Are there any objections to this paragraph? DRC, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you so much, sir. When one refers to cooperation and synergy with other conventions, one said this within the limits, within the parameters of their respective mandates, of course. I'd like to take this into account here, and we could replace invites by encourages. Thank you.
This encourages. Are there any objections to this? Any objections to this? DRC, we are on 17, para 17. So he is telling you. DRC, you are asking for the 17, para 17, floor?
Je pensais qu'on était déjà à 18.
I thought we were already in 18, sir, because no one had requested the floor for 17.
Since there is no request for floor, 17, para 17 is approved, please. Now I open the para 18. We are on the page 18. I open the floor, please. DRC, you have the floor.
Oui, c'est ce que je disais. Ce paragraphe.
Yes, that's what I was saying. This paragraph refers to cooperation and synergy with other conventions. This, of course, has to take place within the parameters of their respective mandates. And for this reason, I would propose to replace the word invites by encourages.
Any objections, please, to DRC's proposal, amendment? No? 18 approved with the amendments suggested by DRC, please. Para 19 starts with invites the secretariats. I open the floor for interventions, if any. This paragraph, are there any objections to this paragraph? DRC.
Oui, c'est presque.
Yes, it's along the same line of ideas. I would like us to say also encourages, and then we can replace the word invites.
Are there any objections to this amendment made by DRC? Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would prefer to keep the original text with invites, so if we could have it in brackets. Thank you.
Since there is no consensus, this is put in brackets and we are moving on to para 20. Para 20 starts, takes note of the report. Floor is open, please. Are there any objections to this paragraph? None, where this para 20 is approved. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair. Just for clarification, the report that is referred to in this paragraph has not been presented, is not completed yet. I think that's a fact, so I suggest we bracket this paragraph. Thank you.
Yeah. Bracketed, please. We are moving on to with brackets. It is approved, and we are moving to para 21, please. Floor is open, please. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you. We have reservations about this request and ask this paragraph to be bracketed accordingly. Thank you.
Paragraph 21 is bracketed, and we are moving on to para 22, please. Australia, you have the floor. On para 20 or 21? You want
Thank you, Chair. I was going to request an addition to paragraph 21. I note it's already in brackets, but I would request a small addition at the end, if I may.
We have already bracketed, so very difficult to accept your request, please. Sorry. We have moved on to para 22, which starts with the words also requests. No request for the floor. Para 22 is adopted. Thank you. Friends, para 23 placeholder. We are moving on to 24. Floor is open on para 24, please. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Apologies. Just could the Secretary rapidly explain the footnote that comes along with this placeholder in terms of timing above all? Thank you.
Floor to the floor. You have the Secretary. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As standard practice for each conference of parties, we have deliberations on all different subjects. thematic issues, and from there are some recommendations for further guidance. During the COP negotiation, we have had the practice to taking all these recommendations from other groups into a contact group on financial mechanism to form a consolidated guidance to the financial mechanism. So this placeholder is a candy box. So that would take in everything from other negotiations during COP16. And you can see already there are some recommendations from Substar and also on the other agenda items of SBI. So it's just going to be a very nice placeholder for everything with wisdoms and contributions from other groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. We are on para 24. Floor is open. Please. Are there any objections to this paragraph 24? None. 24 para is approved. We are moving on to para 25. Floor is open, please. Starts with the words invites a global environment facility. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be short. We would like to replace invites by requests.
Any objections to the suggestion amendment made by European Union, please? DRC, Canada, you have the floor. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. We can support that amendment by the European Union. We would also request, after invites the JEF facility to continue to support partnerships, so the addition of continue to support partnerships, because my understanding is that the JEF already does do this. Thank you.
DRC, you have the floor, please.
Merci.
Thank you, sir. Now, we are troubled when we consider this document because the Conference of the Parties is currently inviting, asking, but we don't have any mechanism under the authority of the Conference of the Parties. But as this is the current status of affairs, we are in favor of the proposal made by the European Union and replace the word invites by requests.
Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Colombia would like to support the proposal by the European Union to change invites to requests and to add after indigenous peoples and local communities, Afro-descendants. Thank you, Chair.
Any objections to these amendments, please? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. As an alternative to the EU proposal, Brazil would also like to add in brackets instructs the JEF. So we would have two brackets as options when we envisage this in the COP. Thank you.
Brazil, I request you, as a spirit of compromise, 3 parties have supported this. If you can move forward. Okay. So entire 25 paragraph is in brackets, please, without additions. I request the Secretariat to read the para 25 with the amendments changes suggested, please.
Thank you, Chair. Paragraph 25 would read, request the Global Environment Facility to continue to support partnerships with indigenous peoples and local communities, African descendants, and the rest remain the same.
DRC, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. Now, for now, we cannot move forward with completely new proposal, concepts that haven't been yet properly defined nor clarified. For this reason, we would encourage this to be raised during the conference of the parties rather than here now at this level, as was just suggested by Colombia. At this point, we don't have a definition yet of peoples of African descent. We don't have the parameters of this concept yet, which is a new one for us. So for all of these reasons, we cannot accept this being included in this document. Thank you.
Friends, in para 25, the additions made by parties are included and bracketed. With that, this para 25 is approved, please. Sorry, DRC, I'm not very difficult, to come back to you, and because we have no time, we have added and bracketed, please. Para 26, I open the floor, please. Starts with words. Are there, also invites, are there any objections to this paragraph? 26. Peru, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would rather refer to paragraph 25. I know that 3 countries have approved or supported this paragraph. Peru would be the 4th, because the process for updating our national biodiversity strategy and action plan includes the inclusion and participation of Afro-descendants as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Peru. We have included and bracketed, please. We are on page para 26, please, now. Are there any objections to this paragraph 26? Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a comment on para 26, but I do have a question about the way we are working. I would just like to know if it would be possible in the meeting report to note that some of the bracketed text within this decision was not negotiated, because yesterday we were adding in different proposals, but the paragraphs were also remaining bracketed, and then today we are using a bit of a different approach where we don't include any textual proposals within the bracketed text. We can be flexible. We just think it's very important to note that we will be able to come back to make textual proposals and negotiate on all bracketed text. Thanks.
We are going to get to para 25. I request the Secretariat to please read out clearly so that the parties have a full clarity on what we have done.
Thank you, Chair. The Secretariat's record shows we have a bracket, a square bracket around Afro-descendants, and then the whole paragraph without brackets. So it would read, request the Global Environment Facility to continue to support partnership with indigenous people and local communities, bracket, Afro-descendants, close bracket, women and youth, and to recognize and promote their contribution to the implementation of the targets of the framework. Thank you.
European Union, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My comment, I took the floor to comment on para 26. I'll be short on that as well. We would again here like to replace invites by requests. And just to understand very, very well and avoid any confusing, we understand now that all of our additions will be put in the text in brackets.
Para 26, the word request is added. Are there any objections, please? DRC, you have the floor.
La RDC
The DRC deeply regrets the fact that the right to negotiate of the parties, which are sovereign parties, begins to be denied. Our role here is to monitor, and the role of the Secretariat and the Bureau is to ensure compliance with rules and procedures. If we continue along this line, then the DRC reserves the right to address the issue as necessary. We strongly encourage a spirit of consideration and for respect of our rules and procedures. Therefore, the European Union has suggested additions to Annex 3. Chair, you have said that we are not taking these into consideration. Colombia has introduced something into paragraph 25. You are accepting that. This imbalance should be discouraged with all our energy. Therefore, the DRC asks for the insertion proposed by Colombia to be removed from this paragraph. Thank you.
Friends, we are working against the time and making progress where we can. I request the cooperation of all parties. We will continue with the decision, and if I have time, we will come back to annex. For the moment, the annex remains in brackets, please. Thank you. We are on paragraph 26, please. Floor is EU has included the word request. So are there any objections to this change, amendment, please? See none. Brazil, you have the floor.
Chair, my comment is not necessarily to be interpreted as an objection to this, but I am a little bit puzzled in terms of the procedure that we are following, because in paragraph 25, my delegation's intention, when we presented instructs as an alternative to requests, was not to put the whole paragraph into brackets, but rather to give the COP two options when we came back to this text later. So my question to you is, how is it that you're approaching 26 now? If I raise my alternative proposal of put instructs to request, are you going to bracket the whole paragraph? And I would like clarity beforehand before I actually make this move. Thank you.
Instructs, invites, both words are giving an option. They are kept in brackets, please. Invites also. Oh, I request Secretariat to read out so that you are very clear, because it's taking long time.
Thank you very much, Chair. So now both paragraph 25 and 26, at the beginning of each paragraph, we have two brackets. First bracket is between requests, and second bracket is between instructs. And the paragraph 26 would be the same. So these will be carried over to COP16 for negotiation. Thank you.
Gabon, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to raise a point of procedure. In your introduction, you mentioned that we wouldn't lose time and that only issues relating to specific decisions will be sent to small groups. But I'm realizing that we're opening up discussions again, and I'm not sure at what point we're going to end. Given that we're only at CRP.2 now, my delegation is really concerned about the progress made in our work. Would it be possible to no longer open up debate and to no longer propose new text and to just put in brackets wherever there are divergences of opinion? Thank you.
Thank you, Gabon. Friends, we are on para 27 now. Starts with further invites. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Similarly to the previous paras, we would like to replace invites with requests.
Yeah, keeping in view the previous experience on the two paragraphs, then requests, invites, instructs will be there here also in paragraph, because we have no time, please. we are moving, we have, this is with, yeah. Mexico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Mexico would like to see reflected the word direct prior to funding for indigenous peoples. It would then read it to increase direct funding. Thank you.
Any objections to this suggestion, please? Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a comment on paragraph 26. Before guidelines, we would like to add the word voluntary in brackets. And can I now comment on paragraph 27 as well? In paragraph 27, Colombia would like to support the proposal by Mexico to include direct before funding. In addition, after local communities, we would add people of African descent. Thank you.
I'm putting those suggestions in brackets, please. My request to parties, we are again slowing down. First, please try to cooperate with us. I can go with the option of no additions and other things, but keeping in view the importance of suggestions and interventions, I am giving the floor again and again. Please try to understand. Otherwise, I have to be, a little bit not accepting any additions to the paragraphs, please. We are not making progress at all. Huge, humongous work is before us. Thank you. Para 28. DRC, you have the floor, please.
Merci.
Thank you, Chair. It seems that wherever we see indigenous peoples and local communities, the trend is to add people of African descent. I think we don't have much time left and we want to make progress. Perhaps you could ask for these proposals to be taken to the Conference of the Parties instead, and that will enable us to move forwards, Chair. Thank you.
DRC, it is kept in brackets, please, African descent, and then automatically the COP will take up further discussions. So, since there is a suggestion, we have included that and kept in brackets. European Union, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I requested the floor to comment on para 28, we think at this stage it's appropriate to keep it in brackets since the review of the effectiveness of the financial mechanism has not yet happened. Thank you.
Are there any objections to this suggestion? Bracket. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you. I can support bracketing of para 28. I just had a question though, of clarification. I am not clear on where we landed with the textual proposals on para 25, 26, and 27. So I would simply like to confirm that those paras are all bracketed. And if they are, I think that's fine and we can keep moving forward because I know time is short. Thank you.
The Secretariat has read out 2 times, finally also, making it very clear that only additions have been bracketed. So that should clarify and satisfy you, please. Switzerland, you have the floor.
With your indulgence, I had exactly the same question as Canada, so I think it wasn't quite crystal clear, but I take it that all the suggestions now have been bracketed, but only the words and not the paragraphs itself. If you can confirm that again, I'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, please, that is correct. We are on page para 29. Floor is open, please. Russian Federation, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. From our perspective, the very last portion of this sentence, we can't say it. First of all, because when it looks like that, formulated like that, that's preempting any discussions of the budget group at COP16. And if we like in a kind of some way to indicate that executive secretary is supposed to do it, then you simply leave the paragraph as it is with a full stop after meeting. So I request to delete the last portion after the meeting on the last line. Thank you.
DRC, you have the floor.
Oui, merci.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a small addition to make to this paragraph. But maybe you didn't fully understand what I said in my prior statement. In all the documents which we are going to analyse, there are several references to indigenous peoples and local communities. The trend we're seeing here is to also add people of African descent. I ask that you would, rather than inserting them every time here, because every time we talk about indigenous peoples and local communities, we will lose time. So instead of that, I ask that you encourage or recommend these insertions to be looked at the COP, and not in the document that we're analysing here. That being said, in the third line of paragraph 29, after indigenous peoples and local communities, we have asked for the addition of women and youth, but apparently that was not reflected in the document. So I would ask for that to come back here. Thank you.
Are there any objections to the proposal made by Russian Federation, please, on page 20, para 29, about the deletion of a part formulation? European Union, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We certainly think that we need to look at this last part when we have a view of all the requests made to the Executive Secretary, and that this is certainly a matter to be considered by the Budget Committee and subsequently by the COP, but we would like to perhaps keep the language and just put brackets around it, because this is an important task, and so we would like to look further into it, but only when we have been able to consider all of the requests. Thank you.
DRC on the suggestion made by, that is not to include the African descent. We will examining and we'll get back to you, come back to you after some time. Yeah, this since this to be implemented with resources from the core budget is bracketed, and we are moving forward, please, on para 29. DRC suggestion, women and youth have been included. If there is any objection, please, any parties. Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias.
Thank you, Chair. Colombia would like to support the proposal made by DRC to include women and youth in the third line of the paragraph. In addition, in the second line, after including, Colombia would like to include
Posibles impactos.
possible impacts. And at the end of the addition proposed by DRC, to include rights. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Please repeat, Colombia.
Gracias.
Thank you, Chair. So, the paragraph will read as follows.
The Executive Secretary to prepare draft terms of reference on the 7th review of the effectiveness of the financial mechanism, including views and possible impacts on indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth rights, comma, and the rest are the same. Thank you.
In order to save time, I am requesting Secretariat just please to read out the para as per the suggestions made by various parties.
Thank you, Chair. Our record should read starting from the second line, including views and possible impacts on indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth rights. Rest would remain the same. Thank you. Oh, yeah, at the end of bracket, as Chair just mentioned, to be implemented with resources from the core budget is in brackets.
We are moving on to next, please, para 29. Friends, we are continuing with the CRP.2, but now we will take up draft recommendations submitted by the chair. Here, I request, I inform the parties that it is difficult to have brackets and proceed here. If there is no agreement, we'll see what can be done, but I want to move very fast on this, and therefore, please bear in mind about the time and the work we have to attend in the next few hours. Now, I open the floor. The subsidiary body and implementation, recalling paragraph 15 of decision 15/15, please. First preamble paragraph. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
My apologies, Chair. I pressed the button some time ago, and it was still on paragraph 29 there. because when the Secretariat read the text suggested by DRC and then amended by Colombia, so Secretariat didn't say that it's in square brackets. We are supportive of the text suggestion from DRC related to inclusion of women and youth, but we can't agree with the suggestion from Colombia. So then the entire text needs to be clearly there in the square bracket in the middle of the paragraph.
Accepted, please. Getting back to preambular part of the recommendations, I open the floor. The para starts with the subsidiary body and implement, recalling the paragraph 15 of edition 15/15. Please, this is the recommendation part of the document. Please bear in mind not to make any interventions, additions, it's better. And if very essential, minor things may be suggested. Please bear it in mind. It is a request. Moving on to second para of the preamble. This first one is approved. Recognizing that most recipient countries. Floor is open, please. No request. Thank you very much. Approved. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
So, Chair, so we like to see here that it's saying the most of eligible countries. Recipient are those who already received money. So the eligible are those who can come and get this money. So there is a clear distinction between them. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, please. Second para is approved, please. With this change. We are on third para. Are there any objections to the third para, starting with regretting the lack of voluntary contributions? European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In the previous version, the para started with noting. We would prefer a more factual, a more neutral wording here, and so we would prefer to go back to noting.
Are there any objections, please? DRC, you have the floor.
Merci.
Thank you, sir. We would like to express these feelings of regret because it is a fact that there is a lack of contributions, and it's something that we have noted throughout the whole length of the document. And here in the third line, after "and its protocols," I'd like to say, as well as the KMGBF.
Are there any objections to words adding Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework? please. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Definitely not an objection to include what the DRC said, and my delegation would prefer to retain the operative verb regretting, because as has been also informed to us by the Secretariat in the INF document leading to this, it's an important mandate that was given to the Secretariat, and it was unable to fulfill this task because of the lack of voluntary contributions, and this affects the workflow that we are having under the CBD, so I think it's something to be regretted. Thank you.
European Union, will you agree with the word to keep the regretting? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your
Yes, we can be flexible, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, European Union.
So can we approve this paragraph?
Yeah. Cuba, you have the floor, please.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Cuba supports the proposal made by the DRC and thanks the European Union for flexibility. Thank you.
If there is any objection to the paragraph amended, please show the hands, because time. Objections. Okay. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, we'd ask to put this suggestion, the language suggestion by the DRC in brackets, given that this refers to the replenishment of the GEF9 rather than the GBFF, which is funded separately. Thank you.
Sorry to say, we cannot have brackets and proceed in this recommendations part. I request Switzerland, the DRC, Brazil, and EU to just over lunch, please come to a consensus and we will move forward, please. It's becoming very difficult because in this part we cannot have brackets, please, and the recommendations. And now, UK, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you're trying to move us on. I was just going to say that I think that the suggestion from the DRC is a good one. I'd understood our distinguished colleague to be referring to the Kunming-Montreal framework, not the GBFF. And all I was going to suggest was that we make the wording completely aligned with Annex 3 of 1515. So it would say, in particular, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Thank you, Chair.
With that helpful clarification made by UK, we would like to approve this paragraph. Are there any objections, please? Thank you. Thank you. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I propose both noting and regretting should be kept in bracket because they are both ideas presented already. And for KMGBF, I support the proposal made by the UK. Thank you.
Japan, sorry to say that this is meaningless. This is a recommendation part of the document, please. This is for SBI. So either we have to accept the paragraph as agreed by the other parties or delete it. So therefore, I am not in a position to accept your suggestion, please. Sorry. Thank you. DRC, you have the floor.
Peut-être je voudrais...
Well, perhaps I could ask an intermediary solution, noting with regret. And that would cover both of the elements.
Yes, accepted, please. Now we are on the next paragraph, starting with regretting also that the lack of voluntary contributions. Is the paragraph agree? Any objections to this paragraph, please? None. This is approved, please. Next in line, taking note of the information contained in the report of Secretary and Financial Because the number 1 notes the preliminary report of the Council of the Global Environment Facility. Any objections to this paragraph? None. Thank you. Paragraph 1 is approved. Paragraph 2 also notes the report support. Starts with the words. Also notes the report. Rapid report. Support, sorry. DRC?
Oui, no.
Yes, we do welcome the progress made by the Global Environment Facility, but we would of course want it to do even more. And this is why I would like to here introduce the word relatively. So the relatively rapid support, that would be in the first line.
Any objections to this proposal, please? None. Para 2 is approved, please. We are on para 3, starts with encourages global environment facility. Any objections to this paragraph, please? None. Para 3 approved. Para 4, any objections to this paragraph 4, please? Starts with what notes with appreciation. Japan, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair, you are going too fast. These paragraphs are very important. For paragraph 2, DRC suggested relatively rapid support. I think both relatively and rapid, they are both subjective language. I don't think you can just move on so quickly. And relatively, I propose to be kept in bracket for paragraph 2. Thank you.
Japan, I would like to clarify again. In this part, it is difficult to please put in brackets and move. This is a recommendations part, and this is for the SBI, please. Kindly try to empathize and understand the actual situation. So I'm finding it difficult to accept your suggestion, please. Sorry, thank you. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. I took the floor as you concluded conversation on paragraph 3, and that was to recall that yesterday when we were discussing the draft COP decision, there was an OP10 about the non-adoption of the terms of reference of the advisory group and the auxiliary body of the GBFF that my delegation suggested to bring to the SBI decision. So we would like to suggest that to be a 3 bis. They would simply read, requests the Council of the GBFF to adopt at its second meeting the terms of reference for its auxiliary body and advisory group. So we're trying to put it in a positive tone. We're adding the request that other delegations seem to be comfortable with, and we do hope that this is a path that's acceptable to all. Thank you.
Secretariat to please read it, then we'll seek the objections, if any.
So it requests the Council of the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund to adopt at its second meeting. Just for your information, it's coming soon. It's in June 2024. The terms of reference for the auxiliary body and the advisory groups. Thank you.
Russian Federation, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. That's on paragraph 4. We already stressed in previous days many times that we happy with the many elements of work of GF. We also can note, we even can welcome some elements, but it's super hard to do it with appreciation when the number of countries are actually excluded from the work and not provided any support. So we can't live with appreciation. So we request to delete it.
Please raise your hands if there is any objection to this. Thank you. I see none. Para 4 is approved.
You have to take these guys because they also asked for
Okay. DRC, please.
Oui, merci.
Thank you, sir. We back the proposal of Brazil as far as 3 bis is concerned, and the same for paragraph 4. However, we have a question for clarification. Now, I recall that during the plenary which we held, the GEF had explained that the 8th replenishment was $5 billion. But at this point, only 2 billion have actually been allocated. And I'm told here that we have reached 90% of resource usage. So perhaps they could just clarify this.
We will move on, please, and we'll get back at the end of the session. And because of lack of time, we cannot entertain now discussion and submission of the details, please. We will invite Jeff at the end of the session. We'll get back to it. Now, Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm still talking about paragraph 2 because you didn't give me the floor. Relatively, it's a subjective word, but I accept it because it is SPI decision recommendation. But I also would like to propose, if relatively stays, with appreciation in the beginning should also come back. Thank you.
Sorry, Japan, we are not going back to para 2. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but I would like to ask for some clarification on process with regards to the language inserted by Brazil. You went very fast, and I think we can understand the spirit of it, since this is a subject on the agenda of the JEF Council in June. But I think we would like, but from what I heard, I think we would like to tweak the language a little bit and proceed carefully with it. So I think we are moving too fast, and so also this is an entire new para being introduced, so I would like to ask some clarification on how you will handle that.
Please suggest changes you want on that, this thing. You want to, please read it again so that.
Thank you, Chair. The proposal from Brazil requests the GBF Council to adopt at its second meeting the terms of reference for the auxiliary body and advisory groups. Is this already on the agenda of the second meeting of GBF Council? Thank you.
We are moving on, please. Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Gabon has repeatedly asked for the floor, but perhaps because we have decided to move forward swiftly, you're no longer noticing us. But what I would like to do is I would like to return to paragraph 4. Just like the DRC said, it refers here to appreciation, and we refer to 90% of resource usage, but we have no proof. Nothing here clearly shows how these resources were used and whether they actually were of 90%. So it's a subjective appreciation, and for this reason we believe that we could simply delete this paragraph.
Three bis is we are moving. EU 3 bis is acceptable? Yeah, thank you very much. To move on, please, we will move with the words up. With them.
Deleting.
On para 4, can we move with the deletion of the word with appreciation, please? Any objection, please raise your hands. Thank you. para 4 is approved, please. Now we are on para 5. It starts with the words encourages eligible parties. Any objection to this para, please? Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias.
Thank you, Chair. I had asked for the floor some minutes ago to support the proposal made by Brazil to include paragraph 3 bis, asking for Jeff to adopt, or the Council of Jeff, adopt the terms of reference of the auxiliary body and subsidiary body. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Colombia. Uganda, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry to take you back on para 4, but I see a contextual and actually a realistic challenge if we move to approve para 4 without addressing the issue that DRC raised, because it has implications on the substance and also context of the paragraph. So I would propose, in the meantime, we bracket it, moving forward to get a justification on the issue raised by DRC, especially on the evidence, but also the concerns raised with the resource usage. Thank you.
The paragraph 4, after hearing all the parties, paragraph 4 is deleted, please. Para 5, any objections, please, to this para? Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say, I think there should be need to reference on the Jeff 8 replenishment cycle, just for emphasis, because it talks about accelerating the use of country allocation made available under STAR. Under STAR of what exactly? So I think it would be good to reference the replenishment cycle. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah, this para is approved with this addition. Any objections, please? Thank you. Para 5 approved. Para 6 starts with encourages eligible parties. Any objection to this paragraph, please? DRC.
Thank you, Chair. Something similar was discussed yesterday in the section reserved for the conference to the parties. There was lots of discussion on that, so we wouldn't want to come back onto it due to time constraints. Therefore, we propose that this para be read in 2 ways. So there would be 2 sections. The first section would encourage parties to submit in line with the Cartagena and Nagoya protocols, and the second would encourage the Global Environment Facility to take into account the draft proposals in a balanced manner. And there was a proposal already made in that regard. Thank you.
Any objections, please, to this proposal made by DRC? Thank you. Para 6 with suggestions made by DRC approved, please. Paragraph 7. Any objections to this paragraph 7, starting with words encourages parties to consider? Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I just bring you back to para 6, if the Secretariat could maybe read out the paragraph with the changes suggested by the DRC? Thank you very much.
Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. That would be 6B's. Encourage the global environment facility, taking into account in balanced manner project proposals on biosafety and ABS during its consideration and approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm on the next paragraph, as you already invited us to take the floor or ask for the floor on this one. We'd like to propose to delete the Standing Committee of the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. We were a bit straddled why it was singled out. We had similar conversations in this room yesterday of not singling out in order to avoid long discussions which ones we should include. So I think that would be the most efficient way forward, or at least that's what we suggest. Thank you.
Japan, you have the floor. Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We support the comment made by Switzerland to delete the Standing Committee of CMS because not all CBD parties are the parties of the CMS. Thank you.
China, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. We support the Switzerland and Japan's proposal. We think that if we mention CMS and all the specific commissions, that would compromise the considerations of other commissions. So we support their proposals. Thank you.
We will approve this with that suggestion, that is deletion proposed by the parties, please. Thank you. Para 7, approved, please, with that deletion. Para 8, please. Any objections on this para? Thank you. Para 8 is approved. Para 9, any objections to this para 9, please? Thank you. Para 9 is approved. Para 10, A, B, C, the total paragraph. Any objections to this paragraph with 10 A, B, C, please? Thank you. Paragraph 10A and subparas A, B, C approved, please. Para 11, any objections to this paragraph, please? Raise your hands. Thank you. Para 11 is approved, please. that completes the consideration of CRP.2, and we'll move on. Then the next stage, that is L document, will be prepared. Thank you for understanding and cooperation. Distinguished delegates, let us now turn to agenda item 5B on capacity building and development action plan for the Nagoya Protocol. CRP.3 was prepared drawing on interventions from 17 parties and 3 observers during our plenary session on 23rd May 2024. For today's discussion, we will review CRP.3 with a view to approving it. The document CBD/SBA/4/CRP.3. We are on first paragraph, preambular part, recalling Article 21, 22 of the Nagoya Protocol. Any objections to this paragraph, please? None. Para 1 is approved, please. Para 2, recalling also the provisions of decision NP Nagoya Protocol /4/7. Any objections to this paragraph, please? None. second para of the preambular part approved, please. Third para of the preambular part, recalling further decision 15/4. Any objections to this para, please? None. Approved. Preambular part, third para. Preambular part, fourth para, recalling decision 15/11 of 19 December 2022. European Union, you have the floor, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. In the gender plan of action, we're talking not just about gender perspectives, but also to gender responsive actions. So we would like to add after gender perspectives, after the comma, and gender responsive actions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any objections to this proposal, please, made by European Union? Raise the hands. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I would just flag that I understand that this text comes from indicative action 1.3.1 from decision 15/11, which reads as develop, test, and promote relevant methodologies to mainstream gender perspectives in access and benefit sharing instruments as appropriate. So we would prefer to maintain the language that has been agreed under this action and not suggest that we are revising or revisiting the agreed language under that decision. So we would prefer to retain the original language from this preamble paragraph. Thank you.
I agree with the Brazil, please. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In this same recalling decision, second para, underscoring the critical importance of capacity building and development, technical and scientific cooperation, and financial support to be added.
Sorry, India, which paragraph you are referring to?
This recalling decision 15/11, this second portion under.
Please read out.
Underscoring the critical importance of capacity building.
That is India, sorry. That is the next paragraph. We are on the paragraph recalling decision 15/11. There are interventions from European Union, Brazil, and I agreed with the Brazil's this thing. Just we are on next para, starting with the words preambular part, underscoring the critical importance. Now India may come in, please.
Underscoring the critical importance of capacity building and development, technical and scientific cooperation. After that, financial support to be added.
Objections to the proposal made by India, please raise your hands. European Union, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. We would like to streamline the text a little bit because critical, we're not sure what it exactly means. So we'd like to propose to delete the word critical. And we understand that India wants to add wording on financial. Could you remind us where exactly and the exact wording? Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Secretariat to please read out.
Okay, now. The text as it reads now, with the proposed changes by the EU and India, reads underscoring the importance of capacity building and development, technical and scientific cooperation, financial support, and technology transfer for the effective implementation of the protocol. Thank you.
Are there any objections to this? European Union, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you please add the addition from India after technology transfer, because we always take all the three things together. So, thank you.
Thank you, European Union. suggestions made are accepted. We are moving on to the Indonesia. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indonesia also supports this Indian suggestion and also the move, the change of placement by the latest colleague. But on the critical importance, we think it should be there and it should not be deleted because it's critically important for us. Thank you.
Indonesia, we cannot have the brackets here in this preambular part of the recommendations. Please try to accommodate this version which has been approved just now. So thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Indonesia, you have the floor. Yeah. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can we get back on this because we'd like to check how the wording is usually conveyed and if it's not, if it is possible to delete, we'll delete it. But we just want to maintain the current practice on writing these issues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Indonesia, we do not have time to go into such issues. Critical importance, importance is retained. So please try to cooperate, and we are moving forward with these suggestions. Please, thank you for your understanding. Preambular part. Next, we are moving to number 1 on the takes note of, report recognizing that many parties, in particular developing country parties. Are there any objections to this paragraph, please?
Zimbabwe's dropped off, so
UK. Yeah. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. I don't have any objections to that paragraph, but I would like to suggest a paragraph following that one. We understand that the funds made available through the GEF to support the implementation of the Nagoya Protocol have not been fully utilised, and the draft decision on resource mobilisation calls on parties to submit their applications. So we would suggest an additional paragraph at the end, which reads, noting the limited number of project proposals from eligible countries for support in implementing the Nagoya Protocol, and encourages those eligible countries to submit proposals for support. I can repeat that if helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Please repeat slowly.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Noting the limited number of project proposals from eligible countries for support in implementing the Nagoya Protocol, and encourages those eligible countries to submit proposals for support. Thank you.
Are there any objections to these suggestions, please? Kotiva.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. It's not to respond to the proposal, but rather to the para. Good, thank you, Chair. Côte d'Ivoire, instead of the complete implementation, to have the effective implementation, because complete or full means that nothing remains to be done, whereas effective means that over time we can really see that we are doing it. So that's my proposal, to replace full by effective. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Cordio. Any objections to this proposal? Secretary, please read out. Yeah.
Recognizing?
Entire changes.
Both? The paragraph starting with recognizing with the changes proposed by Côte d'Ivoire would read, recognizing that many countries, in particular developing country parties, may not have yet the necessary capacities to effectively implement the protocol, and then it continues as it was.
Any objections to the proposal, please? None. So this para accepted with the suggestions made.
I'll read the next paragraph that was introduced, noting by the UK, noting the limited number of project proposals from eligible countries for support in implementation of the protocol, and encouraging those eligible countries to submit proposals for support.
Any objections to this, please? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. It's not an objection. We will just have a minor addition to this proposal. So at the end of this new edition from the UK, we would add comma in line with national circumstances and priorities. Thank you.
Any objections to this proposal, please? None. This is approved with the suggestions made by Brazil and UK. Thank you. Takes note of the report. We are in para 1, please. Takes note of the reports. No, are there any objections, please? None. Para 1 is approved, please. Para 2. We have moved to para 2. Well, starts with the words welcome decision. Any objections to this paragraph, please? UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I would just seeking clarification whether this paragraph will remain in brackets given its welcoming decisions that won't be taken until we reach COP16. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Secretariat to please respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that is correct. Since those decisions haven't been adopted, the brackets will remain in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. If there are no objections, we will move on, please. Para 2 is approved. We are on to para 3, starts with the words adopts the capacity building. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and sorry to come again. On paragraph 3, again, I think we should keep brackets around adopts at this point until we've had a chance to review the action plan in the annex. So perhaps this is a paragraph that we come back to, or we keep in brackets for now. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Now I would like to give to Brazil.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to support the previous intervention from the UK. We understand that this paragraph should remain in brackets until we have a chance to review the annex. Thank you.
Agreed, please. We are on to para 4, starting with the words invites parties. Any objections to this paragraph, please? Mexico, you have the floor.
President.
Thank you, Chair. Mexico would like to include in the third line, after access and benefit sharing, the following sentence, considering
protection of human rights and respect for indigenous peoples' rights as part of their national biodiversity strategies. Gracias.
Thank you.
Please repeat it, please.
Sí. Sería después de coma, in the development of capacity building and development plans on access and benefit sharing. Aquí nos gustaría agregar
So there we'd like to add, considering the
protection of human rights and respect for indigenous peoples' rights. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mexico. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So in paragraph 4, at the second line, after including, we would add, including where appropriate, those of indigenous peoples and local communities. We understand that many actions related to capacity building and development needs, including those that are outlined in the annex, they do not necessarily apply to all of those groups. So that is why I think we are appropriate. Regarding the proposal from Mexico, we would add brackets at this point in time. Given that we understand we need more reflection upon the interlinkages between capacity building and human rights obligations. The way that it's phrased, it seems to assume that capacity building and development would somehow pose a risk to human rights. And I don't think this is the idea we'd like to convey, given that we actually want to enhance and promote capacity building and development. So for the time being, we would prefer not to include this here. Thank you.
Secretariat, you have the floor.
The paragraph 4, with the changes proposed, would read, invites parties and other governments to use the action plan to assess capacity building and development needs and priorities, including, where appropriate, those of indigenous peoples and local communities, women, youth, and relevant stakeholders, in the development of capacity building and development plans on access and benefit sharing, square bracket, considering protection of human rights and respect for indigenous peoples' rights, end of square bracket, and then it continues as is.
Any objections to this changes? No? So we approve the Indonesia of the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also share the concern conveyed by Brazil. We want, especially with regards to the additional language after benefit sharing.
Now, if you agree with that point, we will consider it, please.
No,
Just
no, we are not sure to agree even to bracket it. I'm also concerned about the proposal to include where appropriate, because this is an issue of consistency. If you usually only use including without where appropriate, it might have seemed that this is something different, and we are not sure whether this is something we need, because we have been using including where appropriate everywhere, and if maybe Brazil could elaborate again on why we need it inappropriate here, where appropriate here, it would be really we would really appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
we have bracketed, please, that one, where appropriate, bracketed. Yeah, that is bracketed, please. Thank you. Para 4 approved with these brackets. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So if you are to bracket where appropriate, we would request bracketing the sentence including, starting with including and going to relevant stakeholders. Thank you.
Any objections to this, please? By Brazil. Approved, para 4 approved with these brackets. Para 5 starts with invites parties. Can we all agree on this paragraph, please? European Union, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We had hoped that the COP Bureau would have already made a decision on the regional and sub-regional technical and scientific cooperation support center so we could lift the brackets. But as we understand, you haven't announced a COP Bureau decision yet, so we would like to keep it in brackets for now. But we'll hope that we'll be able to lift it in the L document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, European Union. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I was going to make a similar point to my colleague from the European Union, but I was also going to suggest including as appropriate after including, and this is because we understand that the focus of the centres is still being discussed, and the focus of those centres will vary by region and sub-region. So it would read relevant stakeholders and organisations, brackets, including, comma, as appropriate, comma, the regional and/or sub-regional technical and scientific cooperation support centres. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So in paragraph 5, we would suggest after governments, comma, in line with national circumstances and priorities, comma, and as appropriate, indigenous peoples and local communities, women, youth, relevant stakeholders and organizations. We understand the national governments are the primary responsibles for implementing the Nagoya Protocol. So we understand that we kind of need to make a differentiation between parties and the stakeholders. Thank you.
Secretariat, you have the floor to read out, please. Thereafter, we'll seek there.
Paragraph 5 with the proposed changes would read, invites parties, other governments, in line with national circumstances and as appropriate, indigenous peoples and local communities, women, youth, relevant stakeholders and organizations. And now we would lift the brackets. The brackets remain for now, and we try to remove them for the L document, including as appropriate the regional and or sub-regional technical and scientific support centers.
We will, any objections to that proposals, please? European Union.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We understood from your opening of this session that you would bracket every new text. So is this also the case up here?
If there are objections, we'll bracket it, please. If there are no objections, we will move forward and accommodating the suggestions made by the parties, please. Kindly cooperate. So we have approved the para 5 with the suggestions made by the parties, please, in brackets. Delegates, this A and B is also a part of the para 5. Can we all agree on these formulations of A and B? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So in 5A, we would have some amendments to it. So we understand that the action plan is intended to be a flexible framework that countries may wish to use or not. Of course, it would ideally, all countries would be in a position to support the implementation of the action plan. But we fear that the language consistent with proves a bit overly prescriptive. Usually consistent with is used to refer to legal obligations, especially those under the convention and its protocol. So we would suggest rephrasing paragraph 5A as to develop and implement capacity building and development activities in a manner supportive of the action plan and in line with the provisions of the convention and its protocol. Thank you.
Can we all agree on 5B? Now, anybody has objections to proposal made by Brazil 5A?
Shouldn't Secretariat read it?
Secretary, please read out.
Paragraph 5B would read, to develop and implement capacity building and development activities in a manner supportive of the action plan and in line with provisions of the convention and its protocols, and continues as is.
Thank you. If there are no objections, we are accepting this 5A and B as per the suggestions made. There are no brackets, please, here. Thank you. We are moving on to para 6, please. Starts with adjust parties. sorry. Yeah, sorry. I missed out 5B. Huh? It is already. Yeah. 5B, are there any, can we agree, can we all agree on this formulation? Dear, yeah, thank you. It's agreed. 5A and B approved, please. Kotiva?
Thank you, sir. I'm craving your indulgence, but I'd like to go back a bit. I was just asking myself a number of questions. You know, there is a capacity building plan, an endorsed capacity building implementation plan. And we could ask the parties to do just like what they did for the global framework, to take into account of everything that they're doing. Because sometimes the parties, I'll take the case of Côte d'Ivoire, we've updated and revised our strategy and plan of action recently, but there's a plan of action that are attached to this strategy, but one has to take into account of the plan of action for capacity building. So we could ask the parties, or rather asking the parties to elaborate yet another plan. Is this not just additional work? Could this not somehow be included in what we already usually do? Because the strategy and the national action plans are currently being revised and updated right now. Could we not recommend to the parties to take this into account in all that they do? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kotiva. Thank you, Kotiva. We are moving on to para 6, please. Urges parties. Are there any, can we all agree on this paragraph, please? DRC?
Merci. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me the floor. The DRC wanted to make a number of comments regarding the last part, including a proposal to eliminate the last part, which starts within these peoples and communities. So it would end at youth, including women and youth, and we would stop there. And we would delete within those peoples and communities.
Any objections to this proposal, please? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So on paragraph 6, we actually would like to request deleting the last sentence and starting with as well as. Because from our perspective, this seems to conflate stakeholders and parties as if they were on equal footing, when, in line with my previous intervention, the responsibility for the implementation of parties, of the protocol rests primarily under the obligations of parties. So we wouldn't like any language that would assume some sort of reinterpretation of Articles 22 and 25. So we would request deleting the last sentence starting as well as the capacity needs. And the paragraph would end with parties with economies in transition. Thank you.
India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In paragraph 6, in fourth line, account the needs, comma, circumstances and priorities to be added of developing country parties.
Thank you, India. Please repeat it. India, please repeat it.
After account the needs, comma.
Slowly. Third sentence.
Fourth sentence.
Yeah.
Account needs, comma, circumstances and priorities. Circumstances and priorities of developing countries.
Friends, first I would like to ask whether you agree any objection for deletion within those peoples and communities. Raise your hands.
No.
Thank you.
And then the deletion of the...
Then the second deletion as well, starting with the words as well as the capacity needs, blah, blah, blah. No objections. Thank you. United Kingdom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have objection to the changes, but from an editorial perspective, I think it would make more sense at the end for it to read, as well as the capacity, needs and priorities of Indigenous peoples and local communities, comma, women and youth, if that part of the sentence is to remain, and within those peoples and communities is to be removed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm asking to the parties whether they have objection for this deletion of starting with the word as well as capacity, needs and priorities in this. So UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. No objection. Thank you.
Thank you. DRC, you have the floor.
Yes, we would like to keep this part, please.
Secretary to please read out the para 6 as.
The amended paragraph 6 would read, urges parties in accordance with Articles 22 and 25 of the Protocol, international organizations, financial institutions, and the private sector as appropriate to provide timely and adequate and predictable financial resources to support the implementation of the action plan, taking into account the needs, circumstances, and priorities of developing country parties, in particular least developed countries and small island developing states and parties with economies in transition. And now the rest in brackets, as well as capacity, needs, and priorities of Indigenous peoples and local communities.
Including women and youth.
No, we deleted that.
Deleted, okay. So, if there, Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Turning to the wording between square brackets, which says as well as the needs and priorities, we would like to replace as well as by and considering as appropriate, taking into account. We would like to modify and amend this this part of the sentence. Thank you.
Thank you, Argentina. Since this is bracketed, it will be dealt in COP. So you have the floor, please. Argentina, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. On discussions which we are having now on the text, we would ask you to include as an alternative in the text in brackets both options and considering, comma, as appropriate, and if necessary also to conserve as well as, which is another option in brackets.
Thank you, Argentina. DRC, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much, sir, for giving me the floor. Now, in the part that you have placed between square brackets, I understood that you deleted the part including women and youth. I think we should add this, and then we should just end after those words. Thank you.
Secretariat, to please read out so that Argentina and DRC and others have a clear picture of what has been put in brackets and how.
The sentence after, with economies in transition, would read, and considering as appropriate, taking into account the capacity, needs, and priorities of indigenous peoples and local communities, including women and youth.
Argentina, you have the floor. We will, please slowly, speak slowly.
Gracias.
Thank you, Chair. To the Secretariat, could maybe read out the end of the sentence once again, please?
Secretariat, please.
So after with economies in transition, there are two alternatives. Either the sentence would start with, and considering as appropriate, taking into account. The second alternative would be, as well as. Continues, the capacity, needs, and priorities of indigenous peoples and local communities, including women and youth.
Argentina, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you for reading that paragraph again. Our proposal did not include taking into account. I understand the proposal would be
Bracket, and considering, comma, as appropriate, comma, close bracket, open bracket, as well as, close bracket, the capacity, needs, and priorities, and so on. Gracias.
Thank you.
Secretariat has captured that, and we'll move on with the brackets. Thank you. Para 6 approved with the brackets, please. We are on para 7, starts with the word recommends. That's the conference of parties. Can we all agree on this graph, please? DRC, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. The DRC would propose to replace the word invite in the third sentence by request. We request funds to provide the financial resources and so forth.
Switzerland, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous aimerions.
Thank you, sir. We would like to keep the word invite. We are polite.
Cotiva.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you so much, sir. Côte d'Ivoire also backs the term invite. Thank you.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would prefer to have request as suggested by DRC.
Friends, this is a small word and please come to a consensus. I will move on, please. This is not a substantial, big issue. Kindly, we are wasting time on this very, I mean, you know, not of much significance. Thank you. If you could, three of you would agree with by retaining invite, shall we move? Or if you want to take your own stance, then I will put in brackets and move on, please. Hope you have agreed to retain the word invite, and UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I was just going to agree that we would like to keep the original text of invite. Thank you.
So, if other parties have no objection, we will move forward, please. If you have objection, raise the hand. Thank you for your cooperation. We are moving ahead with the para 7 is approved, please. We are on page para 8, please. Starts with the word decides to assess the implementation. Can we all agree on this paragraph, please? Thank you. There are no requests for the floor. Paragraph 8 is approved. Cortiva, you have the floor.
Je suppose.
Touch in the English version, there's no issue, but in the French version, it's 8th instead of the 7th in the third line. Perhaps it's just a translation error. I haven't looked at the English version, but I'm just raising it. Thank you.
Ils ont mis 8e. Voilà, c'est 7e et en bas 8e.
Thank you, Cortiva. Cortiva, we have checked it. It is 8th only, 8th national reports, please. Thank you. Cortiva, you have the floor.
J'étais en train de.
I was saying there's 8 twice in the text. In the 4th line, you also have 8.
It is, I suppose, 18th meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Cortiva.
No, it's the same one.
Yeah, 18.
Yeah, but we don't say, where do we say more? It's not, it's taking it. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Cortiva. Can we... Cortiva, I would like to clarify. It is 8th meeting of the COPMO, please. So, thank you. Para 8 is approved. Then para 9 also starts with the words also decides. And we'll take up to A, B, C, please. 9A, B, C. UK, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In paragraph 9C, we would just like to suggest moving the placement of the wording with relevant expertise. We support retaining the expanded membership, but I think it's important that those members have the right expertise right across all the different groups. So we would move it further up in paragraph C. So it would read, to keep an expanded membership of the Informal Advisory Committee, comma, with relevant expertise, comma, to include representatives. And the rest of the para would remain the same, but obviously taking off with relevant expertise at the end. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
European Union, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you for the proposal with the UK, because we were also doubting a little bit. There was mentioned and relevant organization with relevant expertise. So we would have proposed to delete the first relevant, but I think we can agree with the move from the UK. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, EU. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the para 9B, we are not so convinced with the rationale to expand the mandate of the IAC. So we'd like to put this para in bracket until we have explanation of the rationale. Thank you.
Are there any objections to these proposals, please, by UK and Japan? If none, friends, 9B is bracketed, and 9C with the right relevant expertise that has been added, and 9ABC with these changes. Any objections to these proposals, please? Thank you. 9ABC approved with these changes, please. Now we are moved on to para 10, please. 10 has A, B, C, D, E. We'll take together, please.
No,
sorry.
them one by one.
One by one, but it is under 10, A, B, C, D, E. Are there any objections to para 10A? Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Just on D, I wanted to insert the word, just S on our guidance materials relevant to the action plan, just to make it with materials instead of material, if it's okay. Thank you. D, yeah.
First, I see no objections on 10A, so this is approved, please. We'll get back to D a little while, after some time. 10B, to continue to facilitate, starts with these words. Can we all agree on this subpara? Agreed, thank you. No objections. 10B approved. 10C, to support opportunities. Can we all agree on this subpara? No objections, thank you, approved.
And now it's D with Uganda.
Now we have come to 10D. Uganda, you have the floor, please. Please repeat.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to add the word S on material, just letter S.
Yeah, with this minor change, 10D is approved, please. Now we are on 10E, to prepare a report, starting with these words. Can we all agree on this paragraph? Thank you. Approved, 10E. Now we have to break for lunch, but before that I would like to announce that annex has to be this thing. How many of you, I would like to know, would like to comment on annex? If you raise hands, I will be having a clear picture. European Union and Cotiva, Argentina, Brazil, UK, Egypt.
Okay, so we'll come back to the annex when we resume, yeah?
Should I join the house? Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to seek some clarification for the plenary in the afternoon. At the beginning of the session, you mentioned that small groups are supposed to convene during lunchtime, but we didn't receive any guidance on which small groups will be convened and what topics. My question is, wouldn't it make more sense to us to resume at 3 and try to move as fast as possible with the annex under this CRP? Thank you.
We are discussing on this issue, please, just wait for a while. Thank you. Delegates, since we have no complex issues to discuss, that plan of having small groups has been cancelled, and now we will reassemble at usual time, 3 p.m. in this hall. I hereby adjourn the House. Thank you. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding.